Hello and welcome everybody to today's event, a conversation with Dean Lodato. My name is Jewél Jackson and I'm a senior Newhouse student majoring in newspaper and online journalism with a minor in communication and rhetorical studies, and I'll be your host today. I'm excited to have Dean Lodato with us. Lodato comes from Arizona State University, where he previously served as an associate dean of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. At ASU, he helped to establish numerous partnerships with media companies such as ABC News, CBS News, EW Scripps Media Company, and many more. He also has an extensive background in broadcast journalism, in which he has served as a political correspondent, investigative reporter, and anchor. So let's give a virtual welcome to Dean Lodato.
Thank you so much, Jewél. It's really a wonderful opportunity to get to be with you and other members of our Newhouse network here today. I can tell you I'm honored to take on this new role and excited to share some of the things that I've already learned along the way and really come to you actually from the office of the Dean of the Newhouse School. This is day 6 for me, and I'm excited to be on campus. And being on campus, it's important to acknowledge with respect to the Onondaga Nation firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral land Syracuse University now stands. So with that, I just want to say that I'm excited to be here and look forward to your questions and also getting the questions from our participants as well, or others who are tuning in. I know we'll save some time for that too, right?
Yes. I also, on top of that, want to thank all the alumni, parents, staff, and faculty that are joining us today. Thank you for allowing us to take an hour or so out of your day to have this very important conversation. Like Dean Lodato just mentioned, we do have the option for participants to type in questions into the chat box feature, which I can see some of you all are already utilizing, which is perfect. I always, of course, have my questions, but I will try my best to integrate as many questions as I can as we get them rolling in. So, Dean Lodato, like you stated, you are in the office. How does it feel? How is it going?
It's going wonderfully. The reality is, Jewél, I didn't have to be here in the office to get a warm welcome. People have been reaching out to me for months, frankly, since my appointment, and I've been so impressed and heartened by the strength of our Newhouse alumni, faculty, staff, and students, and they truly know how to roll out the red carpet and make you feel a part of the team and a part of the institution. And it's a special institution, so I'm really excited to be here. And what I've been doing over the last couple months is while wrapping up my time at ASU, I was able to make a transition and really have really good conversations with the leadership team here at Newhouse, as well as key faculty members and staff members. And so I feel like even though this is technically day 6 or 7 on the job, I've been at it for quite some time, which has allowed me to come in and hopefully really be a valuable participant from the beginning, because we have some real challenges that we're making our way through, given what America and the world is facing right now. And a lot of that impacts higher education and what we can do in the fall to ensure a safe learning environment in many different ways. And so we're keeping busy, that's for sure, and really pushing forward. But I couldn't be happier to be here for this next challenge in my own career.
Perfect. When I was doing my research of you, of course, I watched the interview that you did with Citrus TV, and you kind of stated the same thing that you're kind of stating now is the transitional part, and that no school is the same. You went from the University of Maryland to Arizona to now Syracuse, and you said that each school has its own culture and its own identity. And even though it's been a week now probably of you actually being in the office, what are you learning about Newhouse's culture and identity so far?
Well, you're right. Every school is a little bit different, and in some cases a lot different. But what has struck me, I suppose, here at Newhouse is first of all the true legacy of excellence. I mean, this is not an institution that has sort of come of age in the last 10 or 15 years. This is a school that has several decades of legacy of success, and that is such a strong place to come into, and it's so reassuring to me. And what that tells me is this isn't some huge transformation process. My job is to identify all the wonderful strengths that exist here at the Newhouse School, then say, okay, now what can I do to add to that? Where do we want to go in the future? What can I do to break down certain barriers and really elevate the whole program over the course of the next few years? But what I've learned is we are starting from a position of great strength. The students are off the charts, and the faculty has rich traditions of success, both in the classroom and in the research piece, which is terrific. You don't see that at every school in the communication space. And I would also say the alumni network is simply unrivaled. The amount of participation that we get from our alums, their true affinity to Newhouse is fantastic. And there's, I think, so much strength there that we have that simply you don't find at other communication programs around the country. So there's a lot that is special at Newhouse, and I'm really exciting. It's really exciting to me to sort of learn a little bit more each day, and then take a step back and see, okay, now what else can I bring to the table? Who else can I connect with to elevate this terrific school even further?
One thing that I have noticed that you've been persistent with in your communication and emails to us students is that you say that you want to have open lines of communication. What does open lines of communication mean, specifically given that we're going to be having a hybrid schedule of classes being virtually versus online, and that some students may not have the ability to actually meet you in person and establish those one-on-one connections. So I'm just kind of interested in why you are harping on the open lines of communication and its importance.
Well, I think it's critically important because that is what is going to allow a student to be successful on our campus and in our school. To truly get to a point of comfort and inclusion, that means that you have to feel that you're being heard, and you have to know that you can reach the people who can make change and can answer your questions and can make your learning environment that much stronger and fix a problem for you. So to me, that's all about accessibility, and it's about reinforcing that message at every turn. So you're talking about the emails to the students, and during interviews and discussions, you'll hear me reinforce that over and over and over again, because bottom line, that is the most important part of my job, is to ensure student success. And if I'm not in touch with students, then I'm not going to really have the best handle that I can have on what they're going through. So sometimes accessibility is something as simple as making sure that the door is open and that people know where the dean's office is, so you can drift in. And now we prop the doors open on the outer side here of Newhouse 1, and that's by design. It's being able to pick up the phone and call, and giving students my cell phone number, which I do and am happy to do so. Even 10 minutes before our session today, I picked up the phone and called one of our families. Some parents had some very real concerns about what the fall is going to look like. And sure, I could get in an email exchange with them, but I think it's going to be a lot more impactful and genuine if I just pick up the phone and call. So that's an example of accessibility. And sometimes it's creating other systems in place that will grow that sense of belonging and accessibility. So for example, I've already created a new, what I'm calling Student Leadership Council that will meet with me on a monthly basis. So this is taking the leadership of all the different student clubs we have here at Newhouse and all the different student media outlets. And at least once a month, I will sit down with them, or potentially via Zoom, the way we're working right now. And I want to hear what's going well. I want to hear the challenges that they're facing and what they're hearing from their student membership. And so this accessibility really comes in all different shapes and sizes, but it's working towards that common goal of creating a space where people are excited to be, where they feel like they have a responsive leadership, and where they feel safe and included and ready to learn. And that's a culture that I really want to foster here. And it exists in many ways, but I think it's something that we can make even stronger in the future. And that's certainly a priority for me. So what does accessibility look like in a hybrid situation? Well, that's probably a lot more Zooms and phone calls than I would want, but I know how to safely socially distance, and I've got my mask handy and everything else, so I can also have conversations with people in person. And I think that's really important too. You need to be there for them, and so they know that they can come to you when there's a real challenge or opportunity that I could help with.
I think the initiative with the student groups is definitely needed and good. And we'll probably go back to that a little bit later, but to go ahead and address, what does our classes and students returning back to Newhouse look like, and the ratio of like what classes will be online versus in person?
Sure. Well, we've been working really hard, and the staff has done amazing work over the course of the summer to get ready for fall. So I'll paint a picture for you. In our smaller, we've measured off every classroom, bottom line, to create a safe social distance as prescribed by the university. So the classroom that used to seat 20 now seats probably around 7 or 8 students. And the classroom that seats 30 probably now seats 12, and so on and so on. So what we've done is we've taken classes that may have met in a medium-sized classroom in the past. We've put them in a very large space so that we can get more students in a room in a socially distant manner, but still have a face-to-face experience with students. So that's been the first choice. The other option that we've had to do in a couple instances, but not a ton, is that we've created what we're calling an A-B model. So students, one half of the students would be in the room on, say, Tuesday, and then on Thursday, they would engage with the class remotely via Zoom, and the other half of the students would be in person with the instructor. So with all of this going on, I'm really pleased because we've been able to create an in-person experience for almost 80% of our classes, which I think is a win given the challenges that we're facing today. And I'm really proud of our staff and our faculty who've worked so hard to make this a reality. And if you come into the building, when you come back in the fall, you will see plenty of messaging and signs and social distance markers, and there will be lots of reminders to be wearing your mask and follow other safety protocols. And we're even producing a video that we'll share in advance of the semester, and there'll be new language in the syllabus as well. So there's a lot of programs and efforts going in place to really ensure the safest environment possible. And then if the situation warrants and a student needs to go through some sort of self-quarantine, we have a system in place. So literally every class that you can attend in person, you can also attend virtually. So you as a student, let's pretend that you accidentally were exposed to someone with the virus and you have to go into quarantine yourself just to be safe. Well, I want to make sure that you have that rich, engaging experience with your class, and you can do that remotely from your apartment or your residence hall or wherever that space is. So every class can pivot and be engaged with both remotely and in person at the same time, which is pretty unique. And that's what our faculty have been working so hard on over the course of this summer to make sure that they're in a place where they can do that. And that's what gives me confidence that we'll be able to have an enriching educational experience, but one that is fluid and can pivot and handle the challenges that will be thrown over the course of the semester.
With that, I know that when it comes to certain majors like TRF, television, radio, and film, they have to actually use the equipment and go out in the field and find the stories. Do you know how that would be adjusted and accounted for, where people actually have to go out into the field, get a story, and do more interactions rather than being in a classroom setting and learning material?
Well, we're creating protocols for those spaces as well. So the idea is, in essence, we're mimicking what is being done in many cases in the professional environments. So the same precautions that news reporters or production crews are taking in the field, we will be asking of our students as well. So the university is creating this very specific student code of conduct that each student will be expected to abide by, just like you would an academic integrity policy or other language in the syllabus. And then we also will turn around and adapt that for some of these other unique experiences to the Newhouse School. So, say for example, in a production environment, even in the production environment, you'll be expected to wear a mask and create 6 feet of distance and that sort of thing. So you couldn't be interviewing somebody within 3 or 4 feet. You would need to maintain that distance and have the proper equipment available. So we're providing PPE to all of our students, and we'll make that readily available, and that will be part of the kit, as well as cleaning for equipment before you take it out and before you return it, and all those sort of systems are coming into place. So what we're trying to do is create as true of an educational environment as possible, but do it in the safest way possible, and safety takes precedence. So if you're doing a studio shoot, say a TRF student has a production in the studio, there may be a scene that they need to film. Well, if you don't want your actors to wear a mask, then you're going to have to block that so they are probably 8 feet away from each other or something like that, so that you can get that work done, but do it in a way that it meets the guidelines. So these specifics are still being developed, and we're gonna get them out to students via their faculty members as we get closer to the start of the semester, because it really is in many ways changing on a daily basis. But those are the kinds of things that students will be seeing come fall.
I think too, one of the most obvious questions I probably have to ask is, why did you choose Newhouse and why did you choose Syracuse? Specifically, given that when the dean search was happening, you were also in the running to be a dean of your former journalism school at ASU, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and there was some back and forth between you and Syracuse in accepting the offer. So I just have to ask, why Newhouse, and why did you decide to go orange?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And the reality, Jewél, is I knew in the interview process, in my first full visit to campus, where I got to meet the faculty and staff and students as well, you just know, I think, what is a true, genuine, good fit. And I had that feeling when I was here on campus. And it was, for where I am in my career and the kinds of experiences that I've had, I thought it was the perfect fit in terms of this matching the strengths of the school with what I felt I could provide to elevate the institution even further. So, I mean, there's no doubt I loved my time at Arizona State, and that was fantastic for my own personal growth. But I had been there 14 years, and this was an exciting new opportunity in a way that, frankly, in many ways, I thought I could bring even more to the table. So I was excited to pursue this opportunity, and was really relieved at the point where I could reach out to the provost and say, yes, I'm all in. I don't know if you recall, but at the time it was a little tenuous, because the reality was, I have a family. I've got a 15-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son, and you don't want to commit to a big change like this without knowing that your family is 100% behind you and that it makes sense for everybody. Because if that's not working, then I can't give 110% to the job, right? So I didn't want to commit to the position until I knew that I could give Syracuse and Newhouse everything that I had to offer. And to do that, I needed to know that my family was behind me 100%. So that, God's honest truth, the day that the provost needed an answer. I didn't feel like I could give him that 110% because I hadn't had a chance to really sit back and talk to my wife and children about it. And so I wanted to be fair, and being fair at that very moment meant that I had to take a pass. But the beauty was we had time to talk about it, and long before anything else came to fruition, I was able to call him back and say, if you'll have me, I would like to be there, and I'm ready. So that's really the bottom line of the timeline. And I couldn't be happier in the decision. And my wife's excited. My daughter's going to be a sophomore in high school here in the area. She's excited. And so it's going to be fantastic. It's already off to a terrific start.
I think the real question is, are you ready for the snow, though? That's a big transition from Arizona to Syracuse, New York.
Well, the short answer was probably no, because that's going to be a little tricky. But I'm sure I'll be okay. Honestly, I lived in the East Coast in Washington, D.C. for several years, and I went to school at the University of Missouri as an undergrad. And so I like to snow ski, so I will be okay. I saw one question just fly through on the chat asking if we like to ski. We love to ski. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm sure that there will be a learning curve there as well. And I suspect that students, faculty, and staff will get a little bit of a chuckle when they see me trudging through the snow, trying to figure out how this all works. But there's definitely some wardrobe upgrades necessary along the way too.
Yes. I do want to tell our participants, I do see the questions coming in, and I will make sure that we get to them. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll go over to the participant side and take a break. But one more question. I know that one of your goals is that you want to amplify students' work outside of the walls of Newhouse and Syracuse University, and maybe showcase work nationally and even internationally. How do you plan on going about that?
Sure. I think that's one of the real opportunities for us here at the Newhouse School to elevate the brand, so to speak. One thing that I found successful at Arizona State was our tremendous connectivity to industry. Now, I'm by tradition a television person, so for me that ended up with a lot of television networks. So Univision and NBC News and ABC News and Fox Sports and those sorts of things, but also companies like Gannett and the Scripps Media Company and Sports Illustrated and others. And what we've learned over the years is that there's such a need for content creation that these professional companies and experiences would love to partner with institutions like the Newhouse School. So I think you'll be seeing me work hard together with others here in the building to advance those sorts of partnerships. And my goal is when there is a class or a lab that is doing amazing work here in the building, that we've already gone ahead and set up a partnership with, pick your outlet. Maybe it's the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or NBC News, and they know that this is coming, and then they will amplify and collaborate and help broadcast or print that sort of work. And I think that can happen on the journalism side, but I also think it can happen in other areas of our school. The advertising major does a great job in terms of working with professional clients, and the PR side does that as well, but I want to amplify those opportunities. TRF, I want to see us doing some productions that are getting national or even worldwide distribution, because what does that do? That creates opportunities for our students that they can add to their resume and really prove that they've had that level of experience when it comes time for a job. It enables us to reach greater audiences, which helps in student recruitment and retention. And ultimately that will bring new partners in, and that will bring new funding opportunities in and bring others to Newhouse and to Syracuse that perhaps we haven't reached before. So there's a lot that we can do there, and I'm really excited to do so. And that's one of those areas where I'm going to lean on some of those who are participating here today. I mean, that's an area where tapping our alumni network makes so much sense, because there's such experience and ability there and a desire there to connect with the school. So for all those who are listening today, I will be calling you, and you are welcome to reach out to me too to help collaborate on some of these ideas.
I am currently looking at the chat box right now. I see that the most liked question is from John Clemens, and he asks, does Newhouse have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee in place with membership including students, Newhouse professors, and alums? If not, does it need one going forward?
Sean, thanks. An excellent question. The short answer is yes, but let me give you an idea of some additional things we're bringing to the table. So there is a diversity committee at the Newhouse School, which includes faculty, staff, and students. But beyond that, I think we need to be doing more. And I have some ideas, and I'm excited to hear the ideas of others. So one idea is, example, better connectivity with all of our different student groups. So I know that every club and outlet will be a part of this new Dean's Leadership Committee, which I'm excited about. I'm also going to be working with our two advisory boards to create a joint committee, taking members from our Newhouse 44 board as well as our Legacy Advisory Board, and creating a joint diversity, equity, and inclusion committee there that will be able to provide me and others at the school good advice, and also provide a new level of connectivity, and I think really bring some interesting other voices to the table. And there will be more. There's going to be other efforts within the building to increase consistent connectivity to our students, to understand what do we need to be doing to create a comfortable, inclusive environment here at the Newhouse School. Because recruitment is part of the process. I want to increase the number of diverse students and faculty and staff we have at the school, but just getting people into the building isn't enough. You need to make sure that you have the systems and people in place to help everyone be successful. So I think that's an important part of my job, is to break down those barriers that exist and create more spaces and opportunities for this level of communication. So I know where I can help. So you're going to be seeing a lot of growth in that area in the months ahead. And you'll be hearing from my office specifically as we get closer to the fall semester what some of those specific events look like. And there's other things going on also that have to do with faculty and staff training on issues like implicit bias and other things that we need to frankly make sure that everybody is aware of and watching out for. And I also think that there's a transparency challenge here. There are systems in place at the university when it comes to if I've experienced, something inappropriate, or I have a question or a concern, where do I take that? And then once I've reported that or I've relayed that information, what happens from here? Those systems exist, but I don't think, and Jewél, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think everyone knows how that process works. And you're only going to have confidence in the process and be willing to come forward and be a part of the solution if you understand the process. So I think it's hugely important that we're more transparent in those efforts and make sure everybody understands that there is accountability and that there are systems in place to address these concerns as they come up.
I think you hit on a big thing for us students, is that there can be instances within the classroom in which an uncomfortable topic or something does happen between a professor and students that makes, specifically I would say students of color, LGBTQ students feel uncomfortable and don't know where to address their concerns or even feel comfortable doing so. And I guess this is somewhat of a shameless plug, but as us students, we created this mentorship group called Margins, and Margins was created by a former student and now Newhouse alum, River Child, shout out River, myself and some other students and Professor Chesser. But Margins is a mentorship group for freshmen and transfer students, for students of color and LGBTQ students, to just have a mentor and a friend to help them navigate the ropes of Newhouse. And when it comes to students wanting to address diversity within the school themselves, and these groups that we're trying to create to fix the problem within our own institution, how are you going to show support and make sure that it is continued once I leave as a senior?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we need to identify those programs that are working well and ensure continuity of success, right? So I think we need to make sure that there are systems in place to grow those programs. And that means creating a framework. So it is having a good faculty advisor or staff advisor who can help with that process. It's providing support. Sometimes that could be a little bit of funding to help support events and recruitment and that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot we can do. And actually, I was just yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I was having this conversation with Professor Chesler. And this is one of the programs, Jewél, that we identified that we want to expand. So we want to take your program and make it school-wide, this mentorship capability. So that's a perfect example to me of something that started out small, was student focused, and now deserves amplification and support at the highest level. And that's what we're going to be here to provide. And then I would expect and hope that someone like you would say, okay, Dean Lodato, that was great. Thanks for helping and spreading the word, but here's another way that we could really use your help. And that's where I need to make sure that I'm not too distracted and that I make time and that others on our team make time to continue these conversations and look for things that we can continue to do, because it's too easy just to say, well, we're going to do this fall. And then I sort of clap my hands and say, I'll check back in January or something. That's not good enough, right? You have to have systems in place to be able to make sure that you're living up to your end of the bargain. And we're going to make sure that we have those people and systems in place to grow those sorts of opportunities.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Margins. If you know someone who may be interested in margins, freshman transfer, please let me know. We definitely are a mentorship group, and I'm a transfer student myself, and I know that it would be a great help to have had a mentor who could have helped me understand Newhouse a little bit better. But going back to the Q&A, a question we have from Chris. He says, first, welcome, Dean. I'm thrilled to see a broadcast journalist in that office. In my career, I'm encouraging more and more viewers who simply tell me they don't believe the facts I report, and those who believe wild and baseless conspiracy theories. Is there something Newhouse can/will do to prepare young journalists to battle our current disinformation age and regain the public's trust? Thanks.
Well, Chris, that's a really good question. And I'll tell you, that's a frustration level for me too. I think we have a unique obligation right now as schools that teach journalism to be more engaged in this fight, frankly. And I think that takes shape in several ways. First of all, it's arming our students in terms of having the information they need to be able to show as best they can that they're reporting the story in an accurate, fair way. So to me, that's all about transparency. I'm impressed by some of these media outlets that are doing a better job of explaining to their readers and their viewers, how did we get here? How did this story come to be? So that then the viewers or readers can make some solid judgments as to the strength of that piece that they're reading and hopefully have more trust in that piece. So, and then I think the flip side of that is we need to ensure that we're doing our part to help the public understand where their information is coming from and how they can, in essence, fact check and have trust in these institutions that they've come to for news and information. So I think that it's sort of a double-edged process here. We need to do a better job of training our students in transparency and getting a sense of how to cover a story and be able to explain to readers and viewers how that story came to be. And then also from the other end, better educating our media consumers and showing them how to fact check and that you can't just rely on everything that's flying across your Facebook feed and arm them with more tools. So my hope is that by hitting this from both directions, that there's a way we can improve this process for our society. And it's a critical challenge right now among many that we're facing in the communications field. And I think it's part of our obligation as one of the top schools in the country and the world to take a leading role at that. And so this is one of those areas that I'm going to take back to our faculty and ask them, frankly, what else can and should we be doing? And I think there'll be ways that we can grow our program to better meet this challenge in the future. And a great discussion topic today that I want to dive into with our students and faculty is, where does this where does this area and concern over bias in reporting, where is our place there? Where do we need to be having those conversations for our students? Where do we need to be giving our students more tools to be even better reporters when they emerge, getting that degree and know how their own background influences their reporting and how to be able to ensure that they're doing the best job and being transparent for their readers and viewers. That's a wonderful discussion to have today. And that's another area where I want to see our students, faculty really leading the way in those talks. And that's definitely in my vision for the future as well.
Kind of to follow up on that, I know that we're seeing a lot of curriculum change. Like, for example, my major is newspaper and online journalism, but I believe I am the last class of that major. And now the department has changed to M&D, which is magazine, news, and digital journalism. Will we continue to see these changes adjusting and happening within the curriculums? Because I believe it's not only happened within the NOJ major, but it's happening with other majors within the Newhouse School too.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the classic challenges of academia, Jewél, is being able to respond quickly. And if there's one thing I think I can bring to the table, it's what I would describe as a sense of urgency. I think it's acutely important that you as a student are given all the tools you need to succeed today, right? But not just today, but also the tools you'll need to succeed in 5 or 10 years. And the reality is we don't know what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 years anymore, right? When I was going through journalism school 30 years ago, it was a lot easier to sort of predict what the landscape was going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years. So to me, it's reinforcing to our faculty that we need to be somewhat introspective every semester, not just every year, but every semester. And we need to take some risks and we need to mix things up, and that's okay. I think if there's one thing that is done really well among others at Arizona State University is a sense of innovation needs to drive us. And part of innovation is rapid change, but it's also recognizing that it's okay to fail. You know, most things will work, but sometimes things don't work. But even if they don't work, it's a part of the learning process and it's part of the innovation process. And that's the real spirit I want to bring to the table here for our faculty so that they are reacting to change quickly and giving you everything you need as a student. The other thing that's acutely important, I think, is that any student coming out of a communication program today, I think adaptability to change needs to be a part of their DNA, right? So even though I may not be able to predict what you're going to find in 5 or 10 years, what I can do is give you the confidence of adaptability so that you know, okay, Dean Lodato, I don't know what job I'm going to have in 5 or 10 years and exactly what that's going to look like, but I know that you've prepared me for that change and that I can handle it, that I can adapt and I can pivot and I can be ready. And I think every student needs to emerge, get that diploma, and head out into the world with that level of confidence that they're ready for that change, no matter what that is.
I'm going to go back to the Q&A. I'm seeing a lot of questions pop up. What are your plans? I'm sorry, Sanaya has entered this question. What are your plans for international students at Newhouse in lieu of the recent ICE ruling? And what plans do you have to improve the international student experience, particularly when it comes to internships and jobs? It's very difficult for students to find employment after graduation in the States. So what are your plans for improving Newhouse's global network should these students decide to return to their home countries?
Well, a lot of questions in there, so I will try and divide it up, and I'm kind of going to go in reverse order. First of all, I think that comfort level you're talking about for international students is hugely important. In my mind, there is no traditional student anymore. Everyone is coming from a different experience, and we have to make sure that we have the people and systems in place to make everyone feel welcome. So to me, that is the exact same thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier, having mentorship programs and people who know it is part of their responsibility to watch out for some of these more at-risk student populations, which to me would include international students. You're plopping down in a new city and a new school that you don't know, and you don't know very many people, if any. Well, we need to make sure that we have the systems in place to make you feel comfortable. So a mentorship program program, easy understanding of where you can go for help, and certain events and touchstones where we as leaders can interact with you and pick your brain a little bit. How is it going? You know, what are you finding? What can I do to help? So I want to make sure that those systems are in place. And then when it comes to graduation, well, that's where I hope that we can better leverage our alumni network. This is an amazing tool at our disposal, truly unrivaled in the communication space. So I would be working with our career placement group, and my goal is to add more resources there to be able to connect international students. If it is unrealistic for them to be able to continue working in the United States, then SU has a pretty strong global network and global reach. What are we doing to make sure that we have the equivalent of career services resources beyond our borders? So those can be internship opportunities, mentorship opportunities. And I think our existing resources at SU is a good place to start. And then what can we do as a school to elevate that? And then also leveraging our Newhouse network, our alumni network. And then to the first part of your question about the recent ICE ruling, that's really difficult. The university has sent out communication to all of our students yesterday, and we are working as a whole to try and figure out what we can do to be supportive of our students and ensure that their education can continue here at Syracuse and at the Newhouse School. So we're doing everything within our power, but right now we're trying to see what our options are and how we can support those international students given the recent ruling. But what I will say is I'm sensing a very strong collaborative effort from all of higher education, first in the state of New York, but then also in the United States, because this isn't just a problem here at SU or the Newhouse School. This is a problem across the country, and one that is frankly frustrating for a lot of educational institutions. So I think you're going to see a very sort of joint collaborative, one voice going back to the federal government and asking for a re-examination of this ruling and figure out, is there a place that we all can come to where we can ensure that this educational experience can continue for our international students.
One of the other questions we have is from Olivia. Will there be any more commemorations honoring the life of Dean Granham? She deserves all the works, a building in her name perhaps. And I have to add to that, before COVID came, which does seem like a lifetime ago, the Newhouse Foundation pledged $75 million to the Newhouse School. And we kind of don't know where that money is going to be spent. And that is $75 million. That's a lot of money. And so do you know or have an idea of how that money would be spent, and if it could be spent on honoring the life of Dean Granham?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, a huge thanks to the Newhouse family for their continued support of the Newhouse School for so many decades. And the reality is, I can't imagine where this school would be without that level of support. And that goes back to that theme I was thinking of earlier, of just so many decades of strength. And I think it does obviously give us wonderful opportunities for the years ahead. And that's part of the sort of strategic vision that I'm working on as I get to know the school and know the people and the strengths and the weaknesses. And there are a lot of ideas that are coming to the surface. But as you mentioned, Jewél, with COVID, that really sort of changed the first few months of my tenure, so to speak. I've got to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to ensure a safe learning and effective learning environment for our students, faculty, and staff. So that's taken up more time than I expected when I accepted the position several months ago. But Dean Granham Lorraine was a tremendous leader for the Newhouse School, and I have big shoes to fill, and I know that. And I had the opportunity to meet Lorraine on a couple of different occasions over the course of my own career, and was always so impressed of everything that she accomplished. So there will be more ways in which we can honor her legacy here at the Newhouse School. There's a lot of things that we're talking about, and I think will take shape in the fall. And I think we'll be in a position to be able to tell you more at that time, but I can't get into too many specifics right now. The one area that I will point to right away is, and this isn't necessarily a named thing because there are already some in place, but I can tell you that I'm going to put a lot of resources, financial resources, towards increasing the number of scholarships available to students from diverse backgrounds. And I think that's hugely important. It was a passion of Dean Granham's. It's a passion of mine. And I think that is one of the ways that we can really create a more diverse, inclusive environment here at the Newhouse School, is to break down barriers to access when it comes to higher education. And that is something that we are committed to and will be doing shortly.
A question I want to ask before we run out of time too, that's really on my mind, is that for a lot of students, the last spring semester was very stressful given that the semester was cut short due to COVID. And now during the summer, we have seen national protests in regards to police brutality and other changes just happening within our government and our society. How do you plan on being present for students and making sure that they know that you are there for them, not just within Newhouse, but also outside of it?
Right. Well, I think that gets back to that sense of connectivity, right? It's listening and understanding what they're going through. And it's not always having the answers, but being present and being someone that they know that they can talk to, and then perhaps unearth those things in ways that we can help. So a great example, we brought it up a moment ago, the recent ICE ruling that impacts our international students. So when I got to work this morning, I asked Assistant Dean Karen McGee, who leads our student success efforts, can I please have the email address of all of our international students? I want them to hear from me. And it's not that I have all the answers yet, but I want them to know that we're aware of the struggle that they're facing right now, and that we're listening and we're working on it. And I think it's that sense of progressive outreach that is really important today. I can't just wait for someone to show up at my door. I don't know if they want to show up at my door. I don't know if they know where my office is yet. So I need to be proactive and reach out and talk to those students. So another good example, Jewél, is there was, I'm trying to remember what this specific topic was, but there was something that came out on Twitter that involved the Newhouse School a couple months ago that frankly drew some criticism from some of our alums. And that was difficult for me to see, but important for me to see. So there were probably a half dozen or so students that were clearly struggling with some things that Newhouse was doing in this area of inclusiveness and response to what was going on in our world at the time. So I reached out to them. I had 30 and 45-minute phone calls with these students, and I wanted them to know that they are being seen and they are being heard, and that these lines of communications can continue. I've had text messages with recent alums who I've never met before, but who had concerns, and I welcome that. And so I think those are really the sort of starting points for ensuring that students are being seen and are being listened to. And I truly do have an open door policy. I want students to have my cell phone and know that they can reach out. And once we have that conversation, they'll hear me asking, what would you suggest? What are some things that we can be doing? Because I won't always have all the answers, but I can certainly get to the answers with your help.
Yeah, I definitely think that recognizing the mental stress and even physical stress that a lot of students have been put through last semester and now this summer is a very big deal as we return back to campus. But we have a question from a TRF Master alumni from 2016. They asked, what will you be doing to help our students find financially rewarding careers outside of the often tuted LA or New York City markets? The TRF program only pushes students to these two markets, and I have found many wonderful career options as a videographer in many states that do not require me to struggle like so many other graduates that think LA or New York City are the only viable locations to find work. TRF must change its mindset to help graduates thrive, not push them into the New York City or LA meat grinder. Okay,
well, see, now that's a great example of feedback that I wasn't aware of. So that's something that I would love to dive into and take a look at as a broadcaster at heart. I know, just as you, that there are wonderful production opportunities all over the country today. It's easier to get engaged in production opportunities today, thanks to technology, than it's ever been before. So there's wonderful content coming out of every corner of our country and this world. So I think you're right. I think that's a discussion that we could have with the TRF faculty as well as our career services folks, and make sure that we're not putting all of our eggs in two baskets in this case in New York and Los Angeles. So I'm going to write that one down and take a closer look and see what we need to be doing, because there is a vast amount of production going on all around the country and the world, and our students should have access to that for sure.
I think also too, when it comes to alum, we have to recognize our new alum class of 2020. And as they can maybe come back to campus and graduate or just celebrate their achievements, how do you plan on celebrating a class that you may not have necessarily met due to COVID? And yeah, just kind of celebrating them.
Well, I definitely want to do something when we can. I think that class, it's a special class and it deserves recognition. It deserves in-person recognition. Unfortunately, I think we're still waiting to be at that point where we can have a group that size together. But that's something that we're exploring at the university level. But whenever that time comes, we're going to be all in with a graduation ceremony where they can come back and be together, and we can recognize them for their sacrifice and their efforts and their accomplishments of getting that degree. So that's definitely on my radar. A similar challenge we're facing right now is, what does this fall semester look like for our first-time freshmen, right? That's coming to college is a big deal. And I don't know if you remember, I'm told that typically the school hosts a reception out in the patio between the buildings, and you meet the dean and everything else. And I would love nothing more to do that, but I can't do that right now. So we're trying to brainstorm what maybe an individual experience would look like for families to come by, pick up a bag of Newhouse swag, meet the dean in person from 6 feet away, and just say welcome. What are those sorts of things? So we're trying to be creative, and we accept other ideas. So I think it's important that we recognize the class of 2020, and as soon as we can, we'll do that. And if it comes to the point where we need to do something virtually also, we can do that. But I'm really hoping to find a way that we can bring people back together, because I think that's important when you've accomplished something like these graduates have. So that's definitely on our to-do list. We just have to find the right way to do it.
We are definitely hitting our 10-minute mark. So I just want to make sure that we can get through some of these other questions. Andrea, she asked, looking forward, given the impact of the pandemic on the economy and business, how will your strategic plans and partnerships to prepare students to enter the marketplace shift in preparation?
Well, Andrea, good to hear from you. I think there's a lot that we're doing almost organically in terms of the way we're learning to teach in these remote environments with what is happening today. And some of that, there are some ways in which I believe our students are actually better prepared for the workforce today, given what's happening, because we're teaching and learning in this COVID environment. It puts them in an advantage in some ways for some jobs, because they're emerging from our remote learning environment from last spring and transitioning into a remote working environment. So what we're going to try to do is take the best of this and ensure that students like Jewél and others understand that a lot of this is continuing into the workspace, and what else can you be doing? And so we want to make sure that they're armed with those tools, knowing that this may not be just a temporary thing, right? The whole ecosystem is changing, and you need to be prepared for that. And I think our faculty members are very up to speed on that. I would tell you, from an engagement standpoint, our career services team has been working very hard to work with prospective employers and make sure that we're doing our best to engage for things like virtual internships and virtual career opportunities to get our students connected. And then looking out even further, I've challenged our faculty to do research in this area. I want to see the Newhouse School as a leading research voice in uncovering what are these best practices, where else do we need to be making strides, and share this with our industry and other educators in academia and truly partner with collaborators. I would say if there are people participating today in your institution, your employer wants to collaborate in this space and create some of these opportunities, sign me up. I would love to engage our students and our faculty with partnership opportunities in the commercial space on making the most of content creation and other types of communication in this virtual space. I think there's a lot we can do. And I was proud of our faculty. We've learned in recent days and weeks that they've just been racking up awards for their work in the academic space at the largest conference of communications academics that will be happening virtually in August. And I'm really proud of the work they're doing, but I think that needs to continue.
I definitely want to give a big shout out to the Career Development Center and the work that they've been putting in this summer. I work at the office, but I've been able to see the work that they've been continuously sending out internships to us students. So please, any alum that are out there and you want to get in communication with the office, that would be great. I know that they would definitely appreciate it. Let's see, one more question from Howard. We have, given COVID concerns, will guest speakers not be invited to campus for at least the fall semester?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. We are not bringing guests into the building to ensure as much as possible the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff. So any guest appearances at the default will be via Zoom. Now, Howard, I hope that situation changes. I think that's one of those things that may evolve. And if we get to a point where we discover how we could do that in a way that makes sense to bring people to campus, I know that the alumni and guest connectivity is a huge part of the fabric of this school, and everybody wants to make that happen, but we're just not there yet, but we'll try to get there. The upside is, when you're doing guest speaking opportunities remotely via Zoom and whatnot, it has opened our eyes to many more people that we can engage with. So I think there is an upside to that, sort of a silver lining, but the short answer is no. Initially, we won't be bringing guests into the building.
Okay, and let's see, 5 more minutes. I'll try to get through these questions. Let's see. I may think this may be our last question just due to time constraints, but Matt asks, as Dean, you have a lot of competing for your attention to leave the school. How do you stay in touch with what's going on in the classroom, and will you teach?
Good question, Matt. The short answer is yes. I want to teach. I like to teach. I'm a teacher at heart. And I think it's important. So I've already indicated to our academic planning team that it won't be this fall, but beginning in the spring, that I want to get back in the classroom, and especially next fall with a freshman class. I think it's important for the dean to be in the classroom because it helps me stay connected to our students and get to know them and what their world is like today. And I'm also walking in the shoes of our faculty. If they have issues, it will help me better relate if I'm experiencing the same thing they are. So I think it's really important that as leaders that we're also teaching, and I'm going to encourage that of the rest of my leadership team as well. And frankly, that's the fun part, right? Being in front of students and hearing them and interacting with them and helping them discover this wonderful thing that is communication. So I'll be excited to get back into the classroom when that time comes and prove to folks that I can walk the walk, right?
Yes, okay. I have received our 3-minute warning. And so unfortunately, I think I will have to come to a conclusion, but I think we can all agree an hour was definitely not enough time and that we can continue to have this conversation. I want to thank all of the alumni, parents, staff, students that have joined us today and taken the time to just submit your questions. Please continue to make sure you follow up after this conversation and email Dean Lodato and continue to have this conversation, not just here in this Zoom webinar. Lodato, do you have anything else to say on top of that?
Well, first of all, thank you, Jewél, for all of your efforts. You did a wonderful job, so I appreciate that. But just to echo what you're saying is that we do want to stay connected. So I welcome email and phone calls and all that sort of connectivity. I'll be asking that we print the chat and Q&A, and I may be reaching out to some of you. So I'm going to throw in the chat here just I don't know if folks can see it, but my email is just simply mlodato, Lodato, at syr.edu. I would love to hear from you, and at any time. Our students, faculty, staff, and alumni are so important to our long-range success, and you are truly the fabric of the Newhouse School. So I'm couldn't be more excited to take on this challenge. And just thank everyone for the warm welcome. And I'm really excited to see where we go in the future. And yes, our front burner issues are not maybe what we all expected six months ago, but we're going to be in great shape this fall. And I think the long-term vision for the Newhouse School is strong. And I look forward to really sharing that with you in the months ahead. And I'll need your help. So I hope that everyone will stay engaged. And Jewél, I hope to see you on campus here pretty soon.
Yep, you will see me. But like Dean Lodato said, thank you everybody for joining us. We got it right at 1 o'clock right now, and don't want to take too much of anybody's time. So please be safe, be happy. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.